Quite sunny outside. I'm just coming back. And it takes some time to
adjust. Mhm.
So it is our time, 10:30 UK time. And before I share the book with you guys, I'd like to ask Pablo to make a quick prayer for us today.
Let's clear our minds, elevate our thoughts, and think of our Master Jesus. Beloved Master, may we have a bright session. May we reflect, understand, clear our doubts, and learn more. That's why we are here today, to discuss and acquire knowledge. May it be fruitful. Thank you, and so be it.
Thank you, Pablo. So let me share with you guys our book, so you can also see what we are reading. You can also read as well if you want. Well, last Saturday, we almost finished the previous topic. Right, but before we move to the next one, I would like to read the last sentence, because I think it's positive too, so we don't miss anything. And remind you all, this is not a lecture. This is a study. And I strongly encourage you all to make questions, to share your thoughts. If you do not agree with something, also is the right place to express yourself, because that's the best way to learn. That's the best way to all of us to learn, okay? So, I think I forgot to say good morning to everyone. So good morning. And
Good morning.
let's read the little sentence on the end. People who like this sort of communication naturally open themselves up to frivolous and deceiving spirits. Serious spirits, stay away from them. As among us, serious men and women, stay away from groups of irresponsible people. Why I wanted to read this end of this item 135, because there I see there a lot of important things in this very last words. We are spirits. So the same way we like few things, when we discarnate, we have our preferences as well. It's not because we are not on the physical body anymore that we become perfect. It's far from that. And when we are in the spiritual world, we will get closer to those that share the same opinions as us, or those that are in the same vibration, if you like, or even better, those that feel attracted to a subject or another. That could be positive items, that could be negative items. The principle is the same, right? And if we, as incarnated, as mediums, we give some preference to this type of message described above, we will attract spirits that want to take advantage of the situation, or spirits that feel comfortable with that, that want to have a fun with that, right? So this is one very important. This is one very important thing that I think we should always remember. A deceiving spirit may come to us using a very nice name, like I finished the study last week, And in the message, we are able to find a little thing here, a little thing there. And it is our duty as responsible indoctrinators, coordinators, you call the name you want, to make the right questions, to always evaluate everything that are coming through. Doing the evaluation, I'm not evaluating the medium, not at all. I'm assuming the medium understands and works as a medium. That's just a go-between between the spiritual world and our world. So when we do an evaluation, we are evaluating the message. We are evaluating the spirit. Of course, there are situations where the medium himself or herself is also playing games, if you like. And that is another thing. This is mysticism. That's another thing. And we don't want to talk about that here right now, right? But now, right on the end, serious spirits stay away from irresponsible people, irresponsible groups. Hi, Liz.
Everybody. Yeah, there's a false belief sometimes with people trying to communicate with spirits that just because it's a spirit, it suddenly becomes knowledgeable or good. And there's the old phrase that people say, a dead Presbyterian is a dead Presbyterian, or a dead publican is a dead publican. So you don't change just because you die. Therefore, yeah, you have to really be very careful when you're receiving communications as to who and why they may be communicating, and even evaluate, as you say, the quality of the message. Could it be just word salad, you know? So yeah, discernment is key.
Yeah. I would like to use something you said also to elaborate a bit. When we die, we do not change. As you said, a Presbyterian will be a Presbyterian on the other side. Yes. But we also evolve on the other side, right? So the evolution happens everywhere. So I may die today a Presbyterian, and through my experiences, through my studies, through my future experiences on the other side, I may start to see things in a different way. I may start to learn a different language. I may start to use different words. And I'm pretty sure all of us, when we were 10 years old, we had a vocabulary, and our vocabulary today is different. So progress is a law. We will progress everywhere. So yes, we remain who we are, but we all also have the possibility to evolve, to learn different things here and there. Why I'm saying that? Because a lot of people are very eager to judge communications. Oh, this is not that person. I don't recognize that person. That person never would use that particular word. In that moment in time, when he or she was incarnated, perhaps he would never use that word. But when we are on the other side, sending a communication, written or oral communication, we have to remember first to understand the principle of the communication, how the communication works. When we do that, we also understand that some words the spirits will use are the words from the medium, because the spirit of the medium also have his or her own vocabulary. On top of that, as I said a few minutes ago, yes, in my last incarnation, I would never use the word pineapple because I was allergic to pineapple. But as eternal spirit, when I went to the spiritual world, I learned how to contain my allergy. And in this incarnation, I have no problem saying pineapple, and I am the same spirit. So we need to be very careful when we evaluate any communication. Of course, we may come to a conclusion that yes, it's not the spirit. But before we do that, we need to act with responsibility, charity, and care. Okay, but going back to why spirits, serious spirits, will not find any attraction to irresponsible people. Why is that? Because if I'm a serious spirit, I want to produce something positive. If I want to produce something positive, I will look for someone that will give me the possibility to perform this work. I'm not going to find someone that is really not serious to work with me, right? Let's go to, you may choose one spirit, well known in Spiritism. But I'll use, for example, Emmanuel. It's well known, at least in Brazil. Do you think he would perform his activities to a medium that was not like Chico Xavier? A medium that would be drinking, smoking, having sex left and right, doing all stupid things, saying stupid things all the time. Do you really think he would get closer to this medium to perform his work? Very unlikely. Very unlikely. Likewise, we know that mediums are not perfect and they fail sometimes. And for example, today, we may have Emmanuel working. Just as an example, right? We may have Emmanuel working with someone. He did a marvelous work for 10 years, and he started, in the medium, he started to make the wrong choices. On his personal life, for example. He started to make wrong choices in how to use his mediumship. Do you think he's going to stay with him for another 10 years? He will not. I believe he will give some warnings to the medium. Stop doing this. Don't go that way. That's not very good for you or for us. But if he decides to use his free will to do, the spirit will also use his free will to find another worker, another medium, because he don't have time to waste either. So this is something that we always have to keep in mind. We have to be responsible. We have to be committed, available. If we assume a responsibility in one activity, it's better not to be there. It's better be there, right? Because we have responsibility with ourselves and with others. So, moving to the next item, serious communications. 136. Serious communications are serious, both as to subject and form. And that reminds me another thing that we have here on the end. People that are in doubt about how serious the spirits are, or if I should do this or should do that, ask yourselves, what is the objective of what is coming? What is the goal of that message? What is the goal of that instruction? If the instruction is to perform charity, is to help others, is for bringing knowledge, for example, we can see with the good eyes. If the message is to stopping doing charity, is stopping doing some good work, stop studying, you know everything already, because I'm giving this example because I heard that before. So you don't need to study anymore. You know everything already. And I heard as well in the past, a medium saying, I don't need to study anymore because my benefactor knows everything. So if you're thinking something like that, then I would encourage you to have a question mark around you until you clear your doubts. Okay? Every communication which does not display any frivolous or crudeness and which has a useful purpose, even though perhaps of a private interest only, is naturally serious. What he's saying here is that there are messages for a group, there is an open message to everyone, and there are messages to a specific person. Regardless, if the message brings something serious, good message, a good warning, for example, becomes a serious message. Why I said a good warning? Because we see a lot, especially nowadays on the internet, mediums or institutions publicizing messages of spirits, signing nice names, telling it's the end of the world, we will have a catastrophic event here, a catastrophic event there, something very bad is coming. I would encourage you to question those messages. Because at least my personal experience is that every benefactor brings messages, serious messages, but I never saw a message to terrify anyone. I never saw a message to make people concerned, scared. I never saw. I'm not saying it does not exist, but when I see a message, even when it's signed by a nice spirit, well-known spirit, telling us we are approaching the end of the world, we are this, we are there, we have a lot of serious events. That's not the way I see things. So, at least I would encourage you to question yourselves. I'm not saying question yourselves as a mediums. I'm saying question yourselves as spiritists. Because there's a lot of messages that are coming with nice paintings, but underline their message, they are not helpful at all. However, that does not mean that such communications are always without error, since serious spirits are not all equally enlightened. I think through Kardec we see that, right? We have events, situations where the benefactor coming to Kardec and say, well, he answered with what he knows. Now let me give a little bit more information. And that's like we all hear, right? Let's talk about math. I am very good until such a point. I am very good to the level that I can count up to 4. But there are people that can do beautiful equations, magnificent theories, all based in math. I cannot. So there's always people that know something a little better than us. They are ignorant of many things, and they may be mistaken about them, though in good faith. We need to be careful with that good faith. Why I'm saying that? I was raised since I was very little in the spiritist environment. And a lot of people use that good faith. That's all you need, good faith. No, it's not. No, it's not. Good faith with wrong knowledge, performed with wrong actions, sometimes, is still good faith, but the results may not be positive. So every time we hear a good idea is coming through, oh, wonderful, we need to be careful. We need to evaluate. It's like a chess. A good chess player does what? When you are playing one piece, in his mind, he already seen 5 different new steps on the game. Sometimes a good idea come with the objective, not so good. And the consequences are perhaps you stop a work, stop an activity, discredit one medium, discredit one institution, discredit God knows what. So we will never be perfect, never. But we should be attentive to everything. That's why truly high order spirits constantly recommend that we submit all communications to the control of reason and the strictest logic. I truly, I will not be able to highlight everything. Although I truly agree with that. Truly agree with that. Okay. But I also recommend that the medium leave that task to the person that analyzes the message. Why is that? Do you think the medium is not capable to analyze? Nope. But let me say that I'll pick a name here, for example. The first person I saw, he was Saul. Let's say that Saul received a message. And I start to question Saul about the message. He may become a bit uncomfortable because is he saying that I'm not a good medium? Is he not trusting my spirit? The spirit that is with me all the time? Is he not trusting the content of the message? It may happen. Let us think that Saul himself, he will start to evaluate his message. Well, he already have a relationship with the spirit. And let's remember also again, we are spirits. If I like Saul, everything that comes from Saul, I will see already with a good eyes, you know what I mean? I will see, well, I like Saul, I know Saul, we are together every day. Then, yeah, I may be misclouded or I may misjudge the content of the message because I'm in the spirit all the time. But why is the spirit with me all the time? I may be only thinking or realizing in my mind that the spirit is with me all the time because he's a very good spirit. I'm very good too. But perhaps the spirit with me all the time because I do something he also enjoys and is not very good. So there's a lot of possibilities. And I prefer personally to say that the evaluation of the communication should be left with the person that coordinates the meeting, the indoctrinator, or something else. I don't encourage the medium to evaluate his own communications, nor other mediums' communications. I think it's a good policy, right? Hi, Daniel. Daniel, I saw your hand.
Sorry. Hi. I was mute. There is something interesting around the highlights that you have done here, and the question is: we should use logic and reason to evaluate things, and one may say that, okay, this is something that we should apply to everything in our lives, and that we can get a little bit of very critic with some stuff over the time. But one thing that is based on what you mentioned is reason and logic. It is something that evolves over time, and even more we get more attuned with like specific things, like the sample that you gave, it's mathematics. So even if it's a very good proxy of understanding things or ways of understanding things, it is not bulletproof. So, but the point that I want to get to is we evaluate things based on our capacities of being logic and reasonable. So basically, we need to doubt everything and review everything over time as a science of progress. And the other point that you were mentioning in terms of letting other people to review what you're giving as a communication is a very scientific perspective on things like peer review and reproduction of things in a different environment as well. So first point is, how do we cope with this questioning during like a constant questioning about everything that we are learning and seeing, applying this reason and logic and reviewing what we have done, what we understand about things. And the second one is this a scientific method then? So we do things and we let other people to help us to review, instead of being ourselves to review the things that we have provided as a source of information.
I encourage Daniel to make, especially not only Daniel, but everyone, I encourage everyone to make more questions like that, because we are thrilled with those questions. And Daniel, first of all, nothing is bulletproof. In this world, even the highest benefactor may do mistakes because we are progressing. In elevated worlds would be a different thing. Here, I don't believe in anything bulletproof. I believe that mistakes may also happen to allow us to learn, right? This is part of the progress. Let me see if I can answer your question in the way I think, right? And the way I think may not be bulletproof, may not be 100%, but I will share the way I think, the way I work with an evaluation of a message, and then perhaps that will clarify the first question, because I forgot the second, by the way. But I'll come back to you, you remind me the second question. Well, let's say that I'll pick another one. I was speaking with, so now I'll pick Cherry. I can see Cherry on the screen. I'll pick Cherry now. Let's say that Cherry got a message that would create an impact, positive and negative. I would evaluate the message. I would rest, so that I would rest on this message for a little longer. If I'm not convinced that I have found all the possibilities that the messages are bringing, and depending on the impact, the level of impact of the message as well, I would ask other indoctrinators to look at the message with me. What do you think? What am I missing in this message? Because back in our mind, all of us, we have intuition that something is not right, or something is too good to be true, or something like that. And then I would evaluate the message, but then not alone anymore. I would evaluate with someone else. If the result of that discussion, that conversation with another indoctrinator does not suffice, does not put my mind to rest, I would go to people that I know. They are, for example, 70 years on the Spiritism, or they had longer career, longer than most of us, for example, in the Spiritism, and I'll ask, can you help me here? Because this is also an exercise. If someone is on the doctrine for, let's say, 40 years, and I'm having only 5 years, I expect that person that is for 40 years being exposed to much more situations than I am. So I'm always go to that person too. Okay, fair enough. I heard that person too. If I'm still not convinced, I ask my benefactors, our benefactors, because they will not say no to you, because you have a serious objective trying to study that message. Should I ask any spirit about course not. I will ask spirits that has been proved over and over the years, decades of work together, that I can trust them. Would they be perfect? Of course not. But they will have more clarity to evaluate and to see things that I cannot, that my friends cannot, because we are incarnated. They could see different things. Sometimes they tell us, be cool, the message is positive, that's really what they're trying to do. Or sometimes they come to us and they say, that was a good exercise, isn't it? You need to learn a little bit more, right? Why don't you study this, this, and this to have a better clarity of your evaluation? And they may also come to you and say, yes, this message is not positive. You may need to consider A, B, C, D as a consequence. So that's the way I would work in an evaluation. But now, Daniel, remind me, which is the last question?
I think you have answered. It was more of a, there's a cross relation between the scientific method and the method that's prescribed.
Oh, sorry, yes. Now, I like that question very much too, because things I do, not here, but in other places, are related to scientific methods. And depending who you ask, is the Spiritism a religion? You have an answer. Is the Spiritism a science? You have an answer. Is the Spiritism a philosophy? You may have another answer. But I am inclinated, I like the scientific side of the Spiritism. And when I'm coming to situations that are serious, messages that may create an impact, I use Kardec's method. I have received over the years some messages that I was really, I may even say, scared of the consequences, of the implications. And I've used Kardec's method. What is Kardec's method? Universality of the teachings of the spirits. I ask different mediums, different places about that question. And then I get the answer. So we always have the possibility to use scientific methods in our day-to-day lives and in the Spiritism. Munir, please help me out.
Hi, Guilherme. Thanks. Good morning, Daniel. Good morning, everyone. Since you talked about scientific method, Daniel, there's one thing in science that is called peer review. If you do a research, you get results, you need to publish that, and your work has to be reviewed by your peers, people who know very well the field. So in terms of mediumship, I don't know why a medium should be sensitive in terms of getting the message that came through him. It's not his message. The message that came through him, reviewed by, in this case, the peer wouldn't be people with other, titles and certificates and whatever, but people who have experience, and even as Guilherme said, submit to benefactors and listen to what they have to say. And I think it's very important that other people, read what the message that came through. And sometimes someone will say, well, but, this aspect is a bit weird because of this and that. And then you stop and think, yeah. So since you mentioned scientific method, and this is very important, the certificate of the quality of your research in science is done by peer review. Everyone we ask, have you published your research? Yes, I have. Where? Has it been peer reviewed? If it has, yes, okay. It seems to be a very good, very sound research. If it hasn't, then they say, well, you better do it. Otherwise, no one can guarantee that you did a very, very good job. Mm-hmm. I think it's the same with messages, It needs to be evaluated by, those working within the group and perhaps even other people.
Mm-hmm. Munir, something came to my mind when you were saying those 100% positive words, because I'm 100% with you on this one. And I was in a meeting. And sometimes the spirits communicating in the meeting, they are a bit exacerbated. And you have to be a bit more assertive in what you say to the spirit. Doesn't mean that you're not charitable, doesn't mean you're not treating with love, means that you are being assertive. That was a bit hard, this one in particular. And in the end of the meeting, I could see the medium very angry. His face was red. And as we should ensure that everyone goes home well, we asked, "Are you okay?" And that was enough to burst a bubble. I don't admit you talk about that here, the way you talked. I don't admit the way you spoke with the spirit. And I make a question. I made only one question. I'm sorry. I thought I was speaking with the spirit, not with you. So why are you so angry? And that moment, the person stopped. Why I'm saying that? Can that happen? Of course it can. Because we may misunderstand the evaluation. The evaluation is not about the medium. Can be as well, depending on the practices of the medium. If the medium is mystifying, for example. But 9 out of 10, the evaluation is of the spirit. But we can be emotionally attached to the message, to the spirit. Let's say we are in a work environment and our boss came and gave a hard time to someone that his desk is next to mine. I may well jump to protect that person because I like that person, because I felt emotionally involved with that person to some extent. Same thing could happen as well with our spirits. When I'm saying our spirits, are spirits that communicate through us, right? So we need always to remember that an evaluation is positive. An evaluation, as brought by Munir, is scientific as well. And we need to be open to the evaluations. I saw mediums deciding to go away from the spirit centers because they did not accept to be evaluated. That's the way they saw, I'm being under scrutiny. No, it's not the medium that is being under scrutiny. It's the message. It's the message. But then sometimes the ego, a few other things come to play, and the result is not very positive. We may lose a good worker, for example, right? So I will always be sharing with you guys some experiences because I think it's important to you to also think about them, because you may need those information in your future. All right? Hence, we must distinguish between communications that are truly serious and those that are erroneously serious, which is not always easy. And let me say that now someone else, Jackie. I can see Jackie here today. So Jackie just got a message that is really physics. I have no clue what she's writing about or what she's talking about. That I don't have any way to evaluate the message. What should I do? I call Munir because I won't be able to evaluate. I won't be able to evaluate, right? So why I'm saying that? Because no one is perfect, right? And there is something else. What about if the message, that physics message came through is some physics that's beyond the current human knowledge. What should we do? Should we discard this message? Many of you may are thinking yes, because we cannot take risks. It's better to delete 99 messages than to trust one that's not correct. And I'm very happy that Chico Xavier and André Luiz did not agree with you, because they brought a lot of information ahead of their time. And few decades later, science were able to prove they were right. So we need to be very careful when we analyze something and when we judge something. For do, I see a hand. Oh, Jackie, do you have a physical message for me?
I'm afraid that's way beyond my capabilities. The last comment you made, for me, it joined really well with what Munir was explaining, because the peer review, why is it so important? It highlighted, to me, why it's so important, because we are questioning something not to criticize or judge, but to find out whether or not it's the truth, if it's the correct information. Kardec did use this methodology by, we've got the Spirit's book, we've got the Medium's book, we've got the Gospel, all the questioning to get the information, the methodical, categorical way of exploring it. And I appreciate, I appreciate we're studying the Medium's book now, but, in the basic, when we've got the Gospel and we've got the Spirit's book and everything, it shows and highlights to us the importance of this questioning. And I appreciate our ego doesn't allow us yet to be so open all the time to this. But its progression is a way for us to learn and for us to be more open to developing ourselves and supporting the work. Because as you highlighted so well, it's not us, Jackie's work. I'm an instrument if I am supporting and helping. So the medium is an instrument of the work, isn't it? Sorry, those are all the thoughts that.
Mm-hmm. So let me get a hinge of what you said. And first of all, Medium's book cannot work alone. Has to work with the Spirit's book, has to work with the Gospel, has to work with Genesis, has to work with a lot of additional information that came after Kardec too, to make us understand and be reasonable about what is there, right? So yes, we are studying the Medium's book, but if we really want to understand all that's written here, we cannot only stay on this book. We need to go beyond that, okay? In regards to the peers method, how many people are here today? We have 18 people here. Oh, pretty impressive for a Easter day. I'm glad with that. So we have discovered one topic, or we received one message about one topic. Let's say one scientific topic. Right? I'll say something absurd here, right? We have a message saying that the energy, the magnetic field around the Earth is a square. It's not what we know it is today. It's a square. So we are 18 scientists here. We believe we are very clever. And as we are scientists, we believe my truth is the truth. The other 17 truths are not correct, because this is now nature. We believe that we have the right answer. Right? So we started having the first problem there. And remember, it's something new, totally new. something that contradicts everything we know. Because today, the magnetic field around the Earth has a shape, it's not a square. So it's something totally different. From the 18th scientists, 10 will discard that information. It's not possible. What I know is the truth, and I'm not prepared to move away from my truth. Fair enough. Now we have 8 scientists that are still considering that possibility. Fair enough. From the 8 scientists, 4 of them start seriously to study about, to evaluate, to consider the possibility, and they stop in the way. They said, well, I'm wasting my time here. I'm supposed to go back to the other 10, and I will stick to my own truth. Fair enough. We have 4. Between those 4, they moved 1 year, 2 years studying that possibility. 2 of them, after 2 years, after being discredited by the environment they are working with, by the other peers, they bond as well, and they decide to stop. Even though they are not convinced they are not square, they decide not to advocate that the square is a possibility, because they don't want to be discarded by their own academy, if you like. And we have 2. Those last 2, they went for years. But the science that we have available right now cannot prove that the message was right, but cannot prove the message was wrong either. And as we all discarnate one day, they died without knowing that the magnetic field of Earth could be square. Few decades later, an instrument has been developed, a special satellite, a special equipment, a special microscope, whatever, that allow us to see that, yes, after the magnetic field we knew at the time, there's another magnetic field that is a square. So we always have to keep our mind open to different possibilities. Hi, Munir.
Hi, Guilherme. It's just another aspect, because we are talking about mediumship, and in mediumship there's an intermediary. And sometimes most of the problem is not the problem itself, with the message could be analyzed and then, could be to a certain extent understood, the limitations and, the mistakes as well. But the problem in this case I see, or an important aspect, is the medium itself. Imagine you come to Brazil and write a letter and say, Guilherme, can you take this letter to Solomon? And he said, yes, I can. Then you give it to Solomon, and Solomon says, oh, but it's full of mistakes, bad English, and no, I don't agree with what he's saying. Why are you, Guilherme, getting upset if your role was just to take the message from me? Unless you open the letter, you start changing the words and say, no, this is not, no, I'll put it differently. And that's what most mediums, they do. They don't like criticism. But if you say, wow, what a wonderful message, it comes from an enlightened spirit, he also takes it personally and say, yes, I'm a wonderful medium, I'm very good. So it works both ways. So the medium is just an intermediary, should be an intermediary, should be just the channel without any personal impact on the message. But we know how difficult it is, we know it happens, and we should be humble as mediums to understand that has nothing to do with us, but with someone trying to communicate through us.
I totally agree, Munir. When we do have something more complicated, if that's the right word to use, we should use Kardec's method, the universality of the teachings of the spirit. One from Japan, one from China, one from Brazil, one from Canada, one from whatever. And then compare the message and see if the content of the message is the same. If the content of the message is the same, let's pay attention on it, because there's something behind that. We may don't know, we may don't understand, we may don't have resources, we may don't have the science to understand, but there is something, right? That's why I think that Chico Xavier, he was very, very brave. The information that he brought to us through André Luiz was unique at the time. After all the complementary information came through. But during his time, he heard a lot of nice comments from our childhood spiritists, to the point that people thought he was obsidiated and a few other things. So yes, there's a lot of things to take into account when we evaluate one message. Hence, we must distinguish between, I read that already, which is not always easy, for due to the seriousness of the language, certain presumptuous or pseudo-scholar spirits may attempt to impose the most wrong-headed ideas and the most absurd theories. We may have spirits coming to us, giving messages, and because we don't know what they're talking about, we think, oh, thank you, sir. Yes, you know, and on the end of the day, the messages are coming just to make a big mess. In addition, to render them more acceptable and lend them more importance, they have no scruples about adorning themselves with the most respectable and even the most venerated names. That was in line with that, what I was speaking earlier today about finding messages on the internet saying, this is spirit, and then when you start to analyze, you see, wow, cannot be from this spirit. But when we propagate those messages, we also become responsible for them. So before we spread a message on WhatsApp, on the internet, Facebook, whatever, we need to be sure what we are really sharing. Because what are the consequences? What could be the consequences of that message not well understood? The world is ending. In 2 months, the world is finished. What should I do? Should I wait until the end of the 2 months, or should I do something stupid now? See, there's a lot of consequences that we need to take on board. This is one of the biggest obstacles faced by practical spiritism. I have to agree with that. I truly have to agree with that, because it's never easy to evaluate a message. Never, never. Let me ask you, I'll let, Liz, hi Liz, I see you. Go on.
Hello. We have discussed a lot of things about communications and everything. But one thing that is really in my head now to remind us all is that we must, as human beings and as spirits ourselves, continue and to really invest in the work of self-discovery, knowing yourself, knowing who I am, my values, my views, without prejudice. And the more we know, the more we are able to do the work of mediumship in the best way that we can do. Because, like you said, Guilherme, so many things about mediums being criticized and being mixed up with the message themselves as part of their identity and things, and our understanding of life, and learn how to really see this activity as something of service And as Chico Xavier said one day, and it is portrayed in a film as well, they say, how do you are doing all of this, you're doing all of this, been accused. And he said, I do nothing, I'm just a postman. So, because that is it, isn't it? And it just takes the self-importance away, because that is, as mediums, we are just that little radio or a little door. But when we know ourselves, the more we know ourselves, the more we are going to find that human condition, that we are not more than anybody else, that we are just here like everybody else to learn and go through life to do the best that we can to learn new things and evolve. And
Agree. Know ourselves is very important, but knowing ourselves does not ensure a quality of the message, right? There are two different things. Hi, Munir.
I just want to mention that in the book Heaven and Hell, when Kardec discusses the idea of hell and the perception people had of hell, he says that the spiritist view of hell, or the different perception of the situation of spirits in the spiritual world when they are suffering, is not the result of any preconceived ideas, but through messages, thousands of messages that came through hundreds of mediums from all over the world. So he got the message, compiled what made sense in all of them, and then presented like a reporter, like someone who went afield and said, well, what I saw was this and that, and people came and told me this and told me that. So it wasn't just one message, it wasn't just one spirit telling it is like this, it is like that, oh, I'm suffering, or I'm very happy, or whatever. So the idea of hell, he puts it, was the result of several messages, thousands of messages through, so many different mediums. And I think when we receive something you mentioned before, something new in physics or any other science, well, we should be careful and say, well, we have one message talking about that. Will I see it again in different messages, in other books, perhaps in even other, mediumistic work that we have in other parts of the world? And then you start to make sense and accept that. Otherwise, we should look at that and say, okay, let's see, let's wait, let's, be careful before accepting it as truth or rejecting it completely.
Totally agree with that. Guys, I will stop here because of the time. But I marked even in a different color because I think it's important. Next Saturday, I want to talk about how an indoctrinator can also be misguided in his evaluation and impact an evaluation, right? So I'll keep that for the next Saturday. So I wish, well, no, sorry, we do a quick prayer before the end. So Jacques, can you do a quick prayer, please?
So let's elevate our thoughts again to our Almighty Father God, who is permanently sending us good spirits for assisting us, benefactors for helping us, overcoming the natural difficulties of life. As we have just studied and read, we need to make the effort on our side to elevate our thoughts, to be serious, so that the connection works better with these benefactors, and so that the help can be more effective. We are deeply grateful for the opportunity we had today to examine these questions of mediumship. May we understand them fully in order to help us using our mediumship now or in the future in an efficient way for helping on our side the spirits in need. So be it.
So be it. Thank you very much, Charles. Thank you very much, everyone. I love this study today. You see, questions. If we do have questions, we have a beautiful study. And I would like to wish you all a wonderful Easter. Enjoy.
And to you guys.
You too.
Yes,
Bye bye.
thank
you.
See you next Saturday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.